This is the ROG Zephyrus G15, and every year, without fail, it's the one laptop that after I review it, makes me wish that I owned it. It's a technological feat clad in white aluminum armor, its heart beating with raw power. I've reviewed many flagship laptops before, but those tend to veer off into the realms of the impractical, not to mention hilariously expensive. But the Zephyrus G15 promises practical and affordable performance, with sensible compromises. So let's get into it. Before we continue with this video, I would like to remind you that if you are enjoying this content, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm a solo content creator and I do all this to make sure that all of you are informed about the products you're about to purchase. Every subscription helps keep this channel running. Thank you. Now, on to the video. Unlike the bare metal fray of gaming laptops that populated the market the previous years, the Zephyrus G15 is different in the sense that it seems like ROG went out of their way to make the aluminum body feel like plastic. But as soon as you lay your hands on its chassis, there's no denying it. You're touching cold, hard metal. It's a well-designed laptop, in the sense that it looks quite unique in its details. It's minimalist enough that it won't turn off the professionals that need its power, but it's never too maximalist that it looks out of place even in the most outrageous of gaming desks. It comes in two colors, black and white, and every year since the finish came out, I had always gravitated towards this moonlight white colorway. It's beautiful, especially in the little paint detail that the whole laptop is white, but some parts like the keyboard has this slightly iridescent mix in it. That iridescent finish melds together with the reflective layer underneath the precision milled dots in the cover and the sexy badge right underneath it. Even the detail that it's a predominantly white laptop, but the faceplate of the display is in black. It's a practice in putting the right amount of detail in the right places. This colorway makes the laptop easy to soil and hard to clean though, but when you get it back to pristine after a week of work and gaming, it's always worth it. But not to imply that all of ROG's budget went to making this laptop pretty. Attention was given not only to the looks but also the build that makes the laptop so robust. There is no deck flex since it's all metal. The hinge is delicately balanced to be smooth enough to allow you to open the laptop with one hand, but not too loose to allow screen wobble. It's even an ergolift hinge, so it's substantial enough to lift the body during opening so you know it won't break off on you eventually. Display flex is minimal too. It's a tank, but it's a beautiful tank. The keyboard is where the laptop starts to reveal where ROG starts to draw the line. To be fair, it is true RGB, but it's not per key RGB, and I feel that it should be a per key RGB keyboard. This is a premium product, and it should come with premium RGB features like per key RGB on the Zephyrus M16, but apart from that detail, it types really well. It's not mushy and has a somewhat solid bottom out without much rebound. Same praises go to the glass trackpad. It's large enough to be incredibly comfortable and easy to use. It has very little delay, something that I can't say about every ROG laptop I've tried, and it's got a nice soft finish to it. And like the keyboard, this is another place where you can see ROG holding back. Since the keyboard doesn't have a dedicated numpad area, ROG should have just put their capacitive number pad technology here. I mean, it doesn't make sense from both a usage and price standpoint. The Asus number pad was on the Strix G15, a cheaper laptop from ROG. You can actually make the case that it shouldn't have been on that laptop, since it's aimed squarely at gamers and esports game players. But the Zephyrus G15 straddles the line between gaming and work use, but this one doesn't have the number pad? That's a decision I'm having a hard time to wrap my head around. From bad decisions, let's go to good decisions. The port selection in the Zephyrus G15, thank God, is wide and plentiful. On the left side, we've got the 240-watt barrel port charger, an HDMI 2.1 out, an RJ45 LAN port, a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A, two USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type Cs that support DisplayPort 1.4 out and power delivery up to 100 watts, and a unified headphone and microphone jack. On the right side, we've got another USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A and a UHS 2 micro SD card reader. First off, this should be the bare minimum of ports for serious gaming laptops. and yes, that includes the RJ45 port. There's just no other way. Also, since this laptop is meant to toe the line between professional work and gaming, I really wish that ROG just went for a full-size SD card reader than micro SD. There's just way more use cases for a full-size SD than micro SD. And lastly, it's pretty baller of ROG to include Type-C fast charging that can charge the battery from 0 to 50% in 30 minutes. And what's even baller is that they include the 240-watt brick and the 100-watt Type-C brick, both in the box. For the long-awaited return of the webcam to the Zephyrus line, it looks like this. It's a 720p webcam, and the mic sounds like this. I would have preferred that this come with a 1080p webcam at least, so it can function as a face cam if I ever want to stream with the laptop, but this 720p webcam is practically usable and will do enough for your Zoom meetings or school presentations or something. It's not the best quality, but then again, it's better than last year, which has no webcam. As for the speakers, this is how they sound like. I've also included a clip of my desktop speakers, the JBL Quantum Duo, so you have a reference point of its loudness and detail. And lastly, the screen. So this is not part of the ROG Nebula line of displays, but it's still pretty high-end for a laptop display. It's a 15.6-inch 16:9 1440p IPS display that goes up to a whopping 240Hz refresh rate. It's got a 3-millisecond response time and supports adaptive sync, Dolby Vision HDR, and is connected to a MUX switch with NVIDIA Optimus. So it's good on the gaming side. On the creative side, it supports 100% coverage on both sRGB and DCI-P3 color spaces, and it's even Pantone validated. So yeah, it might not have the true blacks of OLED screens, but it's fast, it's decently bright, and it's got true colors. A good balance of gaming prowess and work flexibility. As is customary of the Zephyrus G15 line, the 2022 model is packing top-of-the-line specs for gaming laptops, featuring some of the best chips from both AMD and NVIDIA. It's got the AMD Ryzen 6900HS processor, which has 8 cores and 16 threads running at 3.3 GHz and has a maximum boost frequency of 4.9 GHz. It's got 32 gigs of DDR5 4800 megatransfers per second RAM, 16 gigs onboard, and another 16 gig in a SODIMM slot, so it can be expanded up to 48 gigs. It's got an AMD Radeon 680M for integrated graphics, and an NVIDIA RTX 3070 Ti laptop GPU with 8 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM for dedicated graphics. And it's got 1TB of NVMe PCIe Gen 4 M.2 SSD storage. Opening up the underside of the laptop, we can see ROG's cooling solution, which consists of 6 heat pipes all connected with liquid metal thermal compound to the CPU, GPU, VRAM, and VRMs. The heat pipes are cooled by 2 84-blade arc flow fans and are connected to 2 large heat sinks that exhaust out of the back. While we're here, we can also see the huge 90Wh battery and the second M.2 slot for storage expansion. Alright, we've seen the specs, time to put some numbers on the screen. The ROG Zephyrus G15 predictably performs admirably in any high-load scenarios. Starting with synthetic benchmarks, in Cinebench R23 it was able to score 13,179 points in multi-core and 1,472 points in single-core CPU tests. In 3D Mark TimeSpy, it scored 9,498 points in CPU, 10,403 points in GPU, with an average score of 10,256 points. Pretty admirable. I also tested it out in 4 games, representing casual games to esports titles. Dirt 5 represents our CPU-heavy casual game, and it averaged 64 FPS with a 1% low FPS of 47 at 1440p ultra settings. Valorant and Rocket League represents our esports titles, and in Valorant it averaged at 298 frames per second with a 1% low of 204 frames per second, meaning it was exceeding the display's 240Hz refresh rate. Same with Rocket League, it averaged at 279 FPS with a low 1% of 206 FPS. Cyberpunk 2077 Update 1.6 at 1440p RTX Ultra settings with DLSS unbalanced represents our heavy AAA game, where the Zephyrus G15 2022 was able to average 78 FPS with a 1% low of 47 FPS. That's great performance, but not at all surprising given the specs of the laptop. Cooling performance is quite admirable as well. On full load in turbo mode, the CPU maxed out at 95C and the GPU at 87C. That still leaves some space for overclocking the GPU if you really need the frames. Idle temperatures are not bad as well, with the CPU hovering at 51C and the GPU at 44C. Battery life is pretty standard middle of the road, as it was able to eke out around 1 hour and 16 minutes of Cyberpunk 2077 while in performance mode, and around 7 hours of light usage in dynamic mode. Yup, this can be a daily driver no doubt. Just remember to bring the 240W power brick with you if you want to do some AAA gaming while on the go. But if you're just looking to flex your Valorant or Rocket League skills at the coffee shop, you've got a lot of performance wiggle room if you bring just the 100W USB-C power brick. If you think about it, the Zephyrus G15 is the perfect balance between its brothers and the Zephyrus lineup. It's not a compact gaming pocket rocket like the G14, which sacrifices work capability for gaming performance. And it's also not an ultrabook moonlighting as a gaming machine, like the M16. It's smack dab in the middle of things, offering the best of both worlds without much of the downsides. This is a model that was born 3 years ago and has only ever needed minor upgrades and optimizations since then. And that speaks a lot about the quality of not just the product line, but of each model itself. It's still the laptop that I want to own, and it's probably going to be someday. I'll be seeing the upgrades that it'll get this year, and we'll see if I finally take that dive this 2023. So that's the ROG Zephyrus G15 2022. Do you have any questions about this laptop? Let me know in the comments. As always, please like and subscribe, check out my previous video, and stay tuned to my channel for more tech and tech adjacent videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.